Welcome to Spartan Up Podcast. We are here recording at the iconic Fenway Park. We've got racers behind us working hard. We've got our team here, Joe DeSena, CEO and founder of Spartan, Dr. Johnny Waite next to me, and retired Colonel Nye on my right-hand side. So we're here talking about an amazing woman, and you talk about her amazingly. So you start.
Well, Rebekah Gregory, I was very honored. This interview that I got to do.
Yeah.
What a neat person. So we're in Boston. She is a Boston Marathon bombing survivor. She has an unbelievable story, not just about her experience, but what she's done with it, where she's gone with that. I'm going to let her tell you about that. But when we come back, we're going to be talking about the amazing things that we learned from her. Mm-hmm. I just want to mention, too, we're really lucky that every Tuesday we get to hear from these people. But, Joe, now you've actually thought to branch out into a couple other shows, the Wednesday, the Thursday.
We got Dr.L, who's standing with us. She's got her mind show, right? She's going to toughen up your mind. We got Zach Evanash, who's she's going to lift your spirits. I mean, you can't, as you say all the time, Colonel, you can't be around Zach and not be uplifted. And I've been all over the world and people say, oh, you're Zach's friend. Yeah. I'm like, no, Zach's my friend. But anyway, he's got a show. And then we got Kevin Galati coming, and he's gonna focus a little more on those elite athletes we got running through Spartan. How do they eat? How do they train? How do they sleep? Do they meditate every day? I think Branson, I heard, wants to do a Spartan show on Saturdays with us.
A lot of people are saying. But for now, we're going to go see Rebekah. We're going to come back at the end. Stick around.
This episode of Spartan Up is brought to you by Powerful Foods. Fuel your active lifestyle with high-protein, no sugar-added products. We have a special deal just for our podcast listeners. Go to shop.spartan.com/powerful and save 10% with the code SpartanPower.
Welcome to Spartan Up Podcast. We're recording today in Fenway in Boston. And are you a Bostonian, or were you just in Boston for that day?
I was not a Bostonian, but I feel like I am right now because I was in Boston my first time ever in 2013. It was my 26th birthday weekend, and my son and I had come up here to watch someone else run in the race, and we ended up being...
by the race, the yes. Boston Marathon.
Yes, the Boston Marathon. And we ended up being very Boston strong that day because we were 3 feet away from the first bomb that went off.
Wow.
And my son was actually on my feet because he had gotten bored watching all the runners pass. And so I had told him to sit down on my feet with his back against his shins. And the backpack, the first one, ended up being 3 feet behind us. Wow. So later I found out that my body essentially acted as a shield for him. And so I took everything in the back of the legs, and that's what saved his life.
Wow. And so you had a physical injury. I have to say that when you came in, at first I didn't notice that your left leg, you have a prosthetic from just below the knee.
I do.
And it's funny, I hadn't noticed that. And then when I did notice it, it's because it's bedazzled.
Well, it's great.
I love that.
I love that you didn't at first notice that, because that's, this doesn't mark who I am. Sure. It doesn't define me. But what it does, it allows me the capability of every morning being able to get out of bed and say, it's going to be a great day. Yeah. I was 3 feet from a bomb and I'm still here. My son's still here. We're going to make this an awesome day. And so it's a mark of a lot more than survival for me. It challenges me, and it just makes me appreciate life in a whole different way.
Oh, absolutely. I love hearing that. We've done a couple hundred podcasts now, and it's amazing when everyone we have, we get to hear a different experience. But there are some common themes too. And, one of which is that the thing that could have defined you as a problem, you now see as an opportunity. That's the first thing. And you see that, every day, instead of reminding you of something terrible, it reminds you of the blessings that most of us take for granted, which I love that. And when you mentioned about your shielding your son, and so you have a physical injury, but there's also a huge emotional component to what happened. And I'm wondering how you guys have processed that.
There is. And that's the biggest thing. I can talk all day about the physical injuries. I've had 67 operations. I'm getting ready to have another one on my leg. And I lost my left leg below the knee. And I had various injuries. But my son had 2 pieces of shrapnel hit him. So he had a cut to his bone on his right leg that they were able to stitch up. And he had a piece of shrapnel graze the back of his knee. His head, I'm sorry. And that's a miracle in itself. life.
And he saw his mom severely injured.
He did, but what he saw that day was the most horrific part of it. He looked around and people's body parts were laying next to them. There was blood and nails and BBs and ball bearings and everything that these brothers could pack into these pressure cooker bombs. And so that was hard for me as an adult. So you can imagine what it was like for a 5-year-old.
Absolutely.
So there was a part of his life right after the bombing that he was scared to leave the house. He was scared to get back on his bike and do all of these things that kids should be able to do.
Yeah.
But the amazing part about that is we recognized early on the treatment that's out there for PTSD and the help. And so what we also realized is there weren't a lot of help geared towards children.
Sure.
So now we've actually have a foundation called Rebekah's Angels Foundation, and it's for just that. It's for children that have experienced all kinds of levels of trauma in their life, and we're getting them the help that they need.
That's fantastic. And again, you're not just focused on you. You are having another surgery. You have 68 surgeries. Your son has gone through so much, but you guys are finding a way to now externalize that and turn it into an opportunity for other people.
I think that everyone can do that with their own circumstances. The majority of people are not going to get blown up by a bomb at a marathon, but every single person has life blow up in their face.
Yep.
And it's what you do afterwards. And you become a better person based on what you've been through. And so every morning we count our blessings. We don't count our problems. And we continue to, figure out life and all of the incredible things that it has to offer. So I feel really blessed at the end of every day.
And as bad as that one thing was, it's still one thing.
It is.
And you've got a million things to be grateful for, but so many people will identify with that one thing. And even if it's nowhere near as bad as that, they'll choose that one thing to define them. And you get up every day thinking, well, if only that hadn't happened. And it did happen.
Well, and what's crazy is 6 months before Boston, I got held up in a Walmart parking lot and robbed at gunpoint. So I thought that was going to be the biggest highlight of my life. But it's always been a series of these sink or swim moments for me, even back to childhood. And I had my own childhood PTSD. So, our foundation is our hearts and souls. And it's everything that we've been through that have kind of led us up to this point. So it's really neat to see it, and now we've moved to Orlando from Houston, and we've partnered with the Inspired Performance Institute. And these doctors have come out with this amazing treatment that not only, it helps you cope with the memories, but it actually reprocesses them.
Yep.
So they've helped me with my own traumas. They've helped my son, and now we get to help others. And it's just a really incredible opportunity.
Absolutely. We recently had 2 doctors on that we interviewed, and they talked about exactly that, about the idea about going back to this thing that happened in the past and, changing your relationship to it and understanding that your past is just information.
And isn't it amazing that we don't have to live with that past? There were parts of the bombing in that day that I could not get past. Yep. And for years, and with the help of Inspired Performance Institute and Dr. Leslie and Dr. Wood, I was able to move past those so that I can help other people too. And that's what's really just the most... really the greatest part of it, because we live to help others, because every time that we are going through our own journey, someone else is going through theirs. Yep. And if something I can do or say or someone can see can help someone else, then that's what we want to do every day for the rest of our lives.
So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I want to hear more about that, more about Rebekah's Angels, and more about how you're turning this into a positive experience for others.
Okay, we will be right back to this awesome episode, but first we're going to talk about our new sponsor, Powerful Foods. It's easy. Yeah. It's easy for the racers to take this.
Exactly, and you know what? Most Spartan racers, most athletes, they're on the go, they're doing stuff fast, but they need to get calories in them, they need to get good nutrients into them.
Yep.
And the great thing about these...
They taste good.
Yeah. Let's talk about, for example, this one. There's no sugar added. It's natural ingredients. But what I love about it is Greek yogurt, so I'm getting the protein. It's nice and thick, so it's not that watery drink.
Active live cultures. It's good for your belly. This one has 7 live active cultures. S. thermophilus, L. bulgaricus, L. acidophilus bifidus. Sounds like the home team back
Actually,
in
you know what it sounds like? It sounds Greek. I know it's Latin.
Yeah, exactly. These are Grecan bacteria.
So I'm not kidding when I say
Good
that.
bacteria.
I had one of these this morning.
Active cultures.
I had one yesterday.
Right.
It was
you had
great.
this for breakfast, didn't you?
Well, exactly. So I got up this morning.
Right.
I had to meet you guys at 5:30, which is never super fun. Meeting you is super fun. 5:30 is not.
Oh, 5:30 is so fun.
I opened the fridge. I was
Yeah,
so
before the
stoked
dawn
to see
song.
that in there because I knew that I was going to get good food into me. I was going to get it quick. And the other thing is, it's nice packaging. You know, when it's done, it's compact.
Good texture.
But I want to jump to these for a second. Peanut butter and chocolate. I'm the biggest fan in the world of peanut butter and chocolate.
Yep.
So I was a little bit nervous. I'm going to open these up. Are they going to let me down? Because it's healthy, right? And healthy food doesn't always taste awesome.
To let you down.
Now, I'm going to mention our producer has had to actually talk to me about not eating these while we do the episodes.
He really likes them.
I like them that much. You know.
He's going to go do the ultra
No, and
again.
so just so she doesn't get freaked out, I'm going to tell her, I'm not going to eat this right now. I just want to show you. This tastes like the best peanut butter chocolate. The pieces that are in ice cream, they're like cookie dough. I swear to God, I'm not going to eat this right now as hard as it is. But again, what I love about it.
Yep.
So excellent source of protein, no sugar added.
Yep. Coconut oil.
And the great thing is
coconut oil.
that you're bringing in calories, you're bringing in nutrients, you're bringing in the good stuff. And for athletes, you burn it out here. We have an offer where you get
10% off. You get 10% off if you use the code Spartan Power, and you go to shop.spartan.com/powerful.
Boom.
So we'll see you there.
Hey Spartans, what's up? Anne LaRue here to discuss 31 habits of the healthiest Spartans. Last week we had habit 9. This week we're talking habit number 10, which is resisting the norms of everyday sedentary life. We all know that we should move more, but what does that mean? Let's talk about some easy ways to incorporate a little bit more movement into your day, burn a few more calories, and just get that blood flowing and the blood pumping throughout the body, give ourselves some energy. We can start first thing in the morning. Let's say you're brewing a cup of coffee. Do some squats while it brews, right? Pretty simple. Brushing your teeth later on. Walk around the house as you're brushing your teeth. When you're driving to work, park in the farthest away spot. When you get inside the building, if there's stairs, always make sure to use the stairs. Never take the elevator unless you absolutely have to. What's another thing? If you remember last week when we were talking about set it and forget it with hydration, we were setting our phone to go off every 60 minutes to take a few gulps of water. Now I want you to combine that and build to that habit. Now when that alarm goes off, I want you to do a movement. Any type that you want. It can be 10 push-ups, 10 body weight squats, 10 lunges, 10 jumping jacks, whatever you want it to be. Build the habit of small movements all throughout the day, and before you know it, that minimum 10,000 step that we should all be aiming for, not a problem. Blood flowing, energy flowing, great habit to build. That's all for now. Let's head back to the podcast. If you'd like a full list of all 31 habits of the healthiest Spartans, go to life.spartan.com/habits.
Rebekah, there's something I want to ask you, and obviously we're sitting here at Fenway. This is it's very exciting for us when we come to Boston. It's such a place with so much history and so much heritage, but I don't have the same relationship to it. So, when you heard that you're coming to Boston to do this interview, what did that mean for you?
I love Boston because when I think of Boston, I don't think of the fear and the awfulness of that day. I think of all the people who rushed in to save us, not knowing if a third or a fourth or a fifth bomb was about to go off.
Sure.
And those are the people that, I make sure to try and live my life the best way I can for, because there were some that didn't get the opportunity from that day. And then there's so many others that helped us so much. And so when I come to Boston, I get really excited. I have, doctors and nurses that have become like family. Yeah. And so it's a second home to me now.
That's fantastic. That's a really, really neat approach. I love that. Let's go back to your son and let's talk about Rebekah's Angels. And, like you said, there weren't a lot of resources, especially because, the last 15 years, there are a lot of military that are coming back, and there's been such a focus on helping them reintegrate and deal with their physical wounds. But kids, we don't think about that, because how often is a kid in the path of that kind of danger, right? And so just tell me more about how you got started with that. What was ground zero for starting to move forward?
Well, it is widely referred to as a military term, and it's amazing that we have had so many different resources because the military need that. I mean, I can't imagine what they deal with on a regular basis. I only saw just a few minutes and it changed the course of my life.
Yep.
But with children, there's all kinds of different traumas that you can experience in childhood that really can have a huge effect on the rest of your life.
Yep.
So for me, for example, I grew up with a very abusive father, and I didn't know that I had PTSD from that, and we're still dealing with those traumatic experiences until I sat down with a therapist for my PTSD from the bombing.
Sure.
So these things, a child will carry with them throughout their life, whether it be a divorce or a car accident or an illness. There's so many different things that fit under that umbrella. And what happens is if they don't get it treated early on, then they're going to become an adult with a lot of different issues, perhaps. And it could be substance abuse, it could be violence, it could even be suicide. So we want to get these kids treated early on so that they have more of a chance to become successful in their adulthood.
And I love when you talked about you've created a whole different association with Boston and with that experience, but kids don't have necessarily that same capacity and the same life skills, and so they take that initial trauma and it just becomes a filter, and it becomes everything that happens after that in their life is going through that filter.
Yes.
And so especially a child who has suffered abuse and is taught that they're not valuable the rest of your life, all these things that happen, it's through the filter up, I'm not valuable. So Rebekah's Angels, what are the resources that you're now throwing towards helping these children to deal with their traumas early so they don't drag them through the rest of their life?
Well, we've partnered with Inspired Performance Institute, where they actually reprocess those memories. And one of the great things about that is that those children don't have to live with that the rest of their life. They don't have to be defined by those circumstances. It's very easy to get into that habit, even as adults, saying, well, this happened to me, so I'm never going to be the same again. I can never lead a normal life. But what I've found is normal is boring.
Sure, yeah.
Right? You have to clear the trauma, but then you go on to live an incredible life full of possibilities and opportunities. So we want each child that goes through our program to be able to have these, and that's what we're finding. And so these kids that have been reserved or have had all of these bad things happen, or maybe even one bad thing, they're now able to open up this whole new chapter of life. And that's what is really cool, to see the before and the after. And it takes 4 hours. It's a 4-hour session, and then they get to go to Disney World after.
Sure.
So how great is that?
Well, and I've heard that before too, that as much as we think that it's more difficult for children, in some ways it's easier because us adults have had a whole lifetime to build up these walls and things like that, and children can actually learn things much more quickly.
It's a lot easier to correct things when a child is young versus having all these different things, like you said, that add up throughout the course of your life. I wish that I had been able to get the treatment when I was a child, 8 or 9, 10 years old versus going in at 30. But I'm very thankful that there's an option out there.
And I want to ask you about that part, that this option is there, and it's there to help people, and yet so many people, they don't know about it. They don't know about that there are even resources, right? So that person who sees their child, who is in a car accident, and they know that there's been emotional damage there, or the person who's 30 and is starting to realize that, wow, all these things that happened to me might be part of this. How do they find Rebekah's Angels or a similar organization where they can get some help?
They go to our website at rebekahsangels.org and fill out an application, and that gets the process started. And then our partners are Inspired Performance Institute for the adults. So we're helping everyone versus just kids. But our passion is kids, and it's been an incredible partnership so far. We've moved from Houston to Orlando because we believe that much in what we're doing.
And because they can go to Disney? Is that the idea? Yeah,
yes.
Sure. I love that. And which we all have a positive association with.
Exactly. Yeah. Who doesn't love Mickey Mouse?
Sure.
So.
Yeah. It's the universal, exactly.
Yes, it brings families together. Yeah. And it's also a bonus. I get all my legwork done in Orlando, too.
Okay, great. So I want to ask you, a lot of the time we focus on what our listeners and our viewers can immediately apply in their own lives. And so while obviously the formal process is what we ultimately want to have them do to clear all those things, what can people do just day to day? So I guess what I'm asking is, what you've learned from your experience and learned from this process that you'd say, these are the things that I would just tell people to do in their own life? Obviously get the help, but until they get the help, what are the other things they can do?
I've learned so much through this. And the biggest thing is to count your blessings and not your problems.
Sure.
You can wake up every single day and think about all the things going wrong, or you can wake up and say, it's a great day no matter what happens, and nothing in this world is going to steal my joy today.
That's awesome.
And I also believe that, you have to be thankful for the life that you have, but you have goals for the life that you want. Mm-hmm. So every day you wake up thankful that you're here and that there's a purpose for you, and there's a purpose because you're here. I believe that fully. But also, have those goals. Like, don't just settle for mediocre. Have goals to get you to the next level. Think about things that you never would have done. Do those, because that is how you get fulfillment out of life. And you have a voice. And that's what I've learned through this, is that everyone has their own voice and their own ways to make a positive impact on our world. And if we can all use that voice with our God-given talents and abilities, then together we really can change the world for the better.
That's fantastic. And I love, again, we've mentioned this a few times, but that you've taken an experience and found a way to contribute to others. It's not just about you getting well, as important that is. You're taking your wellness now as a platform to go out and do something amazing. So talking about the things we're grateful for, I'm very grateful that you're here today.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's given me an opportunity to expand the way I look at things, and it's just fantastic. So thanks very much, and welcome back to Boston.
Yes, thank you so much.
That was awesome. But what you don't know, what I didn't tell you guys, was not too long ago, my son Jack and I were at a Nike Town event in Boston. She was there, and they were telling their story. The bombing victims were alongside her, the other victims, and they were telling their story. And somehow it inspired Jack, my son. And the marathon was on that Monday. This was a Friday night in a Nike Town store. He had never run more than 3 miles. And he said, I want to do the marathon. And I said, well, it's 20, he just couldn't understand 26. Right. So I said, why don't we go run 5 miles right now? We left seeing her, having her, she was speaking, and ran 5. He made it about 4, and his chest hurt, and his side hurt, and he had pains. And I was basically figuring, all right, we're pulling the ripcord here. He's out. Nope. Want to do marathon Monday.
That's awesome.
He did the marathon.
It's amazing.
I mean, it was a struggle. We worked through it. He got through it. But so she really does inspire people around her.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Right? Just a really neat presence. Like when she speaks, she holds eye contact like no one I've ever seen in my life. Yeah. You can't look away, and she doesn't look away. Yeah. And here's a really good example where she's not looking away from something that happened to her. When I said, how hard was it? And, and she just kept saying, you know what? I'm just taking so much positive out of it. And she's really focusing on where it's hard for other people. Like she wanted to make sure her son got the treatment, and now she's really looking for programs for PTSD for kids and saying that there hasn't been enough focus on that. But from her own standpoint, like even when I said, what was it like coming back to Boston? She said, I love Boston. I love the doctors here. I have so many friends here. I remember the good things that happened that day. And it's just a really good lesson for anything in life, how you can take the good and you can focus on the good.
Well, before you go, I just want to say something. We've done, 250, 300 interviews. There's been lots of people that have had things happen to them, bad things. And I think listening to you just now, we say that over and over and over, like, wow, that was just an obstacle. They somehow turned it around, and somehow they're positive about it.
Yeah.
Right? But though it's negative selection or positive selection.
Well, I think it goes back, though, to something you said, and you just said it, but I want to just, because you said when you first heard her speaking, she was surrounded by the other victims. And see, I don't think from listening to her, she ever saw herself as one. Mm-hmm. So that's her mindset. She was never a victim. She's a survivor. Right? She went through something. She's come out the other side. She's done it with a family member, which is, I can't imagine as a soldier, the mindset as you go off and you face those kinds of things, with yourself or your team or your men or around you. To be there and be in a bombing with your child. Sitting or, standing on your feet when your foot gets blown off. That's a whole different level of having to put their mindset to wrap around, right? But I think she focus is on the positive, the surviving part, and the moving forward part. So I don't know. I don't think we asked her, but I don't think victim is how she would view herself.
Well, I think what she's done so beautifully, though, is she's turned what could be poisonous into medicine, right? And then she's even trying to pay it forward with Rebekah's Angels and really, looking at what happened as an opportunity for her to not only make herself available to inspire others, but then to pay it forward so that the people that she meets and that she works with are also inspiring. Like, I love that piece of things.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. When you mentioned that about being out there with your child, and something that really fascinated me was she talked about that her leg is what had shielded him. And she didn't say it in taking any credit for it, obviously, but you could tell that she felt so blessed by that. So again, here's a situation where she's lost her leg. She's not seeing herself as a victim. She's seeing it as an opportunity to go out and help other people, but also very concretely saying, this was such a blessing that if I wasn't standing there and hadn't lost my leg, I probably would have lost my son, and I'll lose my leg every day to not lose my son.
I like that saying, turning poison into medicine.
Turning what's poisonous into medicine.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But think of the vagrancies of that, right? I mean, so she's standing there, the child is there. If she turns
it's
a couple degrees, it's a different angle.
Yeah.
It happens at that exact moment.
Yep.
It's divine intervention kind of stuff.
And Joe, you mentioned when we were off camera talking about this, there is so much weaving now between our stories. With 250 episodes that we've done, and you say, oh yeah, and you talked about Meb Kaflizi, and that he referenced this.
Yeah, no, it is. It's a common theme, but I think what I said was there's positive selection. The people I think that are coming on the show that inspire the world, inspire us, are people that turn poison into medicine. Right? Don't let those things get in their way. Yeah.
And I do
Mab's
think
got
that
an unbelievable story.
I do think that there is a mental piece of that. Absolutely. I mean, you can count your blessings and not sort of claim that victimhood, but it also does, your mind sometimes wants to go there naturally.
Sure.
So I think it also really requires a certain intent and a community around you that also helps support that.
Yeah. But when you're talking about a spokesperson, right? I'm not a touchy-feely guy, but you can kind of feel radiation off of her, right?
Yeah,
her light, if you will, right? I mean, one, incredibly articulate. Two, I mean, she knows exactly what she wants to say, the message that she wants to say, and she's ahead of this thing, and she's just pushing it forward.
And that's in spite of, it's not like leg injury fixed, 68 surgeries. She had 67, go back for 68. That's a lot of mental willpower to stay there.
Right.
So we thank you for having the mental willpower to stay with us. We are so lucky to have guests like this. Come back next week. We're so inspired. You can be inspired too.
Toodles.
This episode of Spartan Up is brought to you by Powerful Foods. Fuel your active lifestyle with high-protein, no sugar-added products. We have a special deal just for our podcast listeners. Go to shop.spartan.com/powerful and save 10% with the code SpartanPower. Thanks for listening to Spartan Up. We're here to be your partner in resilience training for mind, body, and spirit. We've got tips on leadership, the Spartan mindset, Spartan nutrition, just living life like a Spartan. Almost every day of the week, we're here to help you stay on track. And if you like the show, help us on our mission. We want to rip 100 million people off the couch and give them the tools to keep going. And the best marketing for podcasts like this is people like you. So please tell your friends about it and come back whenever you can. We'll be here for you.